Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be reviewing the Garmin Varia Rearvue 820 bike rear radar. The Garmin Varia was one of the first and only bike radars on the market that offered a very clever way to monitor for traffic behind you even before you could see it or hear it. In recent years, the Garmin patent has expired, which has opened a floodgate to other competitors, and that's why we've seen radars from Trek, Lezyne, and just about every other manufacturer. The Garmin Varia Rearvue 820 is a long-awaited update from Garmin that restores Garmin as the best radar on the market, as it introduced a lot of new features and finally introduces USB Type-C charging, which is something everyone's been waiting for. Packaging-wise, very simple cardboard box, glossy representation of the radar, and then Garmin branding. You have some basic specs and information on it. And I'll go ahead and just open this up and we'll go over the full specs. Now, despite all the competition, this is actually $300, so it's a price increase compared to the previous version. But you get a bunch of new features. You get 175mm detection, which makes it one of the best radars on the market. You get more lumen output, so you have 100 lumen rear taillight. And the more exciting thing is you now have the object tracking and identification. So it'll actually identify the type of vehicle behind you, whether it's a bike, bus, motorcycle, or car. And then it can even track it. So if you have an object behind you that's not changing speed, usually it would disappear. Now it's going to actually show up as it has internal software that'll keep tracking it. So as long as it's still there, it'll show up, which is a really cool feature that you haven't seen with other radars. They also include a new slim seatpost mount for a more secure mounting. As far as what comes with it, you can see the radar, nice modern design, so a little bit updated. You have the instruction manual and the warning pamphlet. You have the seatpost bracket. You have a USB Type-C to C charging cable. And then you have a whole bunch of accessories for the mount to accommodate everything from arrow seatpost mounts to round to D. So you can see separate pieces for the little rear rubber piece. So you have the different adapters. And then you have these nice little straps. So you have these nice Garmin branded straps, so nice and thick. Different lengths to accommodate different seat posts, and a safety tether. Now let's take a look at the weight of the radar. So the radar by itself comes in at 87 grams. And then the seat post mount requires a couple pieces. So we'll pick one of the more rounded ones for the little rubber adapter, the plastic piece, and then the strap. That comes in at 36 grams. Visually, the Garmin Varia Rearvue 820 is a more modern, updated variation of the Varia. They've taken the iconic design with the rounded corners and updated it with a squared edge on top and a smaller radar surface. Definitely still looks like a Varia. It's designed to be primarily mounted upward, but you can actually flip it. But the top section here has the power button and a little LED indicator to indicate the current state. It's actually pretty confusing. This color will flash depending on what mode it's in, whether it's updating, whether the battery is low. So you kind of have to use a manual to figure out what it means. You have the little tether cutout for the safety tether. And then you can see the lens design slightly updated. You still have that really focused LED that gives you a long distance visibility. And you can see that it generates a really sharp focus beam. That's a little bit blinding, but great for long distance visibility. You have two separate side marker LEDs you can see on the corners with their own little cutouts for side visibility, as you can't really see that main LED. And some of the light does reflect off the body, but you can see there is no LED on the upper section. It's just kind of transparent. Very simple branding on here. You just have the Garmin printed on the sides. On the top, again, power button. Nothing on the bottom, and then on the back mounting surface, it's flat with this little nice cover for the USB Type-C charging port, which is something everyone's been asking for many years, and it's surprised it's taken so long for them to update it. You have the standard mount, so it's the Garmin quarter turn mount. Has the two raised tabs, and you can see here it's vertical instead of being horizontal like the computers, just to optimize the space. So you do need to use a mount that lets you put it in this orientation. And as far as mounting, they've actually updated that too. So they've designed it to be a lot more flush against the seat post. So now you have a multi-piece mount. You have the plastic piece that has a little adapter spot for the various rubber adapters. Then you have two separate options for the straps, and you can see it's actually a double wide strap. So you go in here, up and around. It should be a lot more secure than your standard single O-ring style straps. You have quite a few options here, which is pretty cool. So arrow seat posts are pretty narrow. So this one's really narrow and very easy to install. And then they've actually designed the D and then the round seat post design adapters to actually be two different angles. So 73 degrees or 77. So you can see they're cut in a little different angle. So you can position to either be more aggressive or less, depending on your geometry. So you can look up your seat post angle and use the correct orientation. But a very simple design that works well. And again, you can put this on just about any bike, and even different seat post angles by just flipping it around. With this on the mount, you can see it has the Garmin slot in here. Just position it, and then you can see nice and flush, so it looks really good. But because this is still the same standard Garmin mount, you can use any third-party mount like the KOM Cycling or other radar mounts on the market. As far as the lens, they haven't really done much updates, which is kind of surprising. There's a lot more Taillight lens options on the market, so it would have been nice if they made this a little bit more advanced or added a big cob ring. Instead, again, you just have that focus LED. Side indicators, you do have a brake sensor, which is actually fairly sensitive, especially when you're just on the table like here. It'll go to a full brightness setting like you see here, and then go back down. Or you can adjust it to do a flash mode, or turn it off entirely using the Varia app. Most of the features you actually have to use the Varia app to do much. On the device, you can simply hold it on, turn it off. There's also a demo mode, which is kind of cool. So if you just want to play with the alerts and see what it looks like on the phone, you can hold the power button for 10 seconds. And I'll show that here until you see the yellow flashing light. And then once you see that yellow flashing light, you have to let go. So you can see this rapid flashing means we're now in demo mode. So it's making up actual data and car alerts. So you'll see it automatically flashes when it detects a fake vehicle. And it's a cool way just to play with it. And then if you put this on your radar or the Varia app, you actually see the cars approaching. To exit this mode, you press the button 6 times until the flashing yellow goes away. And now we're back in the normal mode. But again, you really have to use the app. The app will let you customize the mode order and even the brightness of each mode. Here you can see the output modes of the radar. They've kept it pretty simple. So you have a solid mode, 25 lumens. Peloton, which is a lower output 8 lumen mode with 15-hour runtime. Nighttime flash, which gives you 40 lumen and is a low to high pulsing. And then daytime flash, which gives you the full 100 lumens and pretty good 30-hour runtime. That's definitely the mode I primarily use during the day and keeps you visible with long run times as well. Here you can see the updated radar display. You will need a Garmin device, which is one of the big downsides, or you have to use the Varia app. But you'll notice that there's now a 2-lane indicator, and instead of just dots, you have these rectangles that are sized appropriately based on the object that's approaching. And you can see the radar range is very impressive. So way far back as the cars approach and actually pop up on the radar, there's little indicators on there that will show you whether it's a bigger threat based on the speed differential. And we found to be really reliable. A lot of the bugs they found with this during launch day with some of the range issues, they've all been resolved with software updates. So everything's really stable, and it's one of the best radars just right out of the box. And again, you can see as you start riding, it'll show up either on the left side or right side. We have the Garmin Edge 850 here, and we configured it on the left side, which is a little bit more consistent with where the cars are. It tracks quite a few cars, and you can see it has a really good range, so really impressed with that. And then the object tracking is very nice here, so even as they match your speed, they don't just drop off like most radars or blip there and come back. With this one, it's pretty consistent. And you can see as a car kind of moves over on the lane, it tracks that on the radar, which is a cool feature. It's pretty impressive they're able to do so much with just a simple radar surface. So you can see the cars sort of move out of your way. And this motorcycle here, you'll see, will sort of pop up as a tiny little motorcycle. So it's pretty impressive, almost thinks it's a bike. And as it turns off, you can see it drops off the radar. So really impressive. And then bigger vehicles will show up as a larger device or larger vehicle with a bigger rectangle. So you'll see that with a bigger big rig coming up here. So I'm really impressed with it. Again, the radar performance, one of the best we've seen in terms of the range and the consistency. You don't have the typical bugs. Garmin really knows their stuff, so software I think is one of the best detection ranges. It's highly visible as well, even though the LED design is a little bit dated. It's a nice focus beam, so it definitely ensures they're visible. And here's a good example of a bigger vehicle with the bigger warning indicator on there. So it works pretty consistently. Garmin also offers the Varia app, and that's the way to set most of the settings on the radar, including the light modes and any customization. And you can also use this app by itself if you don't have a GPS cycling computer, if you have a commuter bike. So it's a good alternative. You can see we have the app set up already, so we synced it using Bluetooth. And then if we go to the radar, you can see there's a couple settings here. You have the light modes. You can actually hit the play button to simulate it on the actual device. You have the max solid, peloton, and then you can also hit the edit button and reorder them. So you can grab the little handle and then reorder them. So if you want solid, daytime, and you can even remove some. So if you don't want a certain mode, you can take it off entirely. You can even create a custom mode. So you can add a flash with different brightness settings and durations. You can add another flash, so you can really make some interesting modes. So you can just keep adding different flashes with different settings and durations to get a more irregular pattern. And you can rearrange these. So it's a nice way to customize it. Then you can save that to the device. You can also change some of the other behavior on the device, so you can do the software updates. I always want to make sure it's updated, as there's always some bugs here. And then device settings, you can display the speed on the actual app, and I'll show it either on the left side with different measurements. And you can change the brake sensor behavior. You can't change the sensitivity, which is a little bit odd. On most of these devices, there's usually a sensitivity option. But here you can see you can just turn it off entirely, or you can make it flashing. Solid is the default. And then if I put this in demo mode, you can actually get an idea what this looks like. So you have the radar display on the main screen. And if I turn this off first, and then hold the power button for that 10 seconds, we'll enable the demo mode. Here you can see demo mode, so you actually get a sense of what it'll look like when you're in actual traffic. You see the different size vehicles and the little indicators on top of them that indicate whether they're a higher threat or not. So this is all fake data, but you can see it's pretty cool. You get nice updates. You get the alerts, and I have the vibration, so this actually vibrates every time a vehicle approaches. Now, although Garmin was one of the first on the market, there's a ton of radars on the market now. Every brand seems to have one. We don't have the Lezyne or the Wahoo on hand, but we do have the Trek CarBack. Has a really cool name. One of the more unique form factors, so a little bit thicker but more square. Has a multi-LED indicator on the side, but no side visibility, which was a big letdown. Just has essentially a flare R taillight inset in the lens, but you can see from the side, there's no visibility, while the Garmin at least has the side markers. So definitely a big letdown there. Different mount that uses their blender. And the range on this one didn't seem to be accurate, wasn't quite as far as I thought it would be compared to the specs. But otherwise, a really nice radar, works well. A little bit expensive at $200, but Garmin's even more at $300. And when you go look at some alternative brands, we have Bryton, Magicshine, iGPSPORT, Raveman, and even the Magicshine R300. This is probably my favorite radar in terms of just the taillight design. And that's what I mean. I think Garmin really hasn't updated anything in a lot of years, while this one has cob LEDs and then even a cool animation on top with the focus LED and another cob LED ring. So really bright and visible. Otherwise, all the other brands seem to have just copied the Garmin. So here we have the Magicshine. So it's a identical shape to the original Garmin Varia. And then other brands have tried to make it look more modern. iGPSPORT has gone with a shield shape, a little bit flatter and squared off corners. Bryton is even more square with a upper separate surface for the focused LED. And same side markers with the little side cutouts. So very similar, but a little bit more modernized. And then Raveman just added some more character lines in here. These cheaper radars are 100, 150 or less. And especially on sale, you can even get them down to 50, 60 bucks. And I think they perform about 80% of the function the Garmin does. So you won't get object tracking, you won't get the object size, and objects that are traveling at the same speed as you will disappear. But otherwise, the radar is really important if you just have cars approaching you, and you'll see them on the radar before you hear them. So I think for 80 or 90% of the performance, you're definitely better off on just a cheaper model. But if you want the best of the best, and you want something that works in the Garmin ecosystem, I think the Varia Rearvue 820, they've really accomplished their task, but it definitely comes at the premium price, which is similar to a lot of Garmin devices, but there are a lot of other radars on the market. It's just nice to see them finally update this and take the throne back with the best performance on the market. What we like about the radar is you have great detection range, so even further than previous models, and very reliable. With the object identification and tracking, you can actually see them move around behind you and even identify whether it's a car, truck, or bus, so you can determine what you want to do and gives you better situational awareness. We also like the slim seatpost mount, which makes it nice and secure on the updated USB Type-C charging port. The main negative is the fact that it's very expensive. It's kind of surprising they didn't actually lower the price. They actually increased it, so it's one of the most expensive on the market, but gives you all these new features. And it does require a Garmin Edge GPS or the Varia app to take advantage of the new display, as they've gone with a proprietary communication protocol. So if you want to use this with a standard radar, you're just going to end up with the dots and some of the features. Also, we would like to see an upgraded taillight design. It's still the same 3 LEDs. With a kind of confusing indicator on there isn't even a multi-LED indicator to show the battery status. You have to rely on a GPS or the app display. Taking everything into account would give the radar 9.5 out of 10. Garmin has really regained their spot as the top radar on the market. It's just unfortunate it's so expensive and has the proprietary communication for the new features. Thanks for watching this review. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can see more content from us on our website at thesweetcyclist.com, as well as follow us on Instagram at thesweetcyclist. This is The Sweet Cyclist reminding you to enjoy the ride.